Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
I'm Stephanie Lazarus.
There has been an outpouring of grief, tribute and even cautious joy following the demise of Baroness Margaret Thatcher.
We have a comprehensive report coming up later in the news, but first a look at the headlines.
A boat carrying 66 suspected asylum seekers arrives in West Australia. President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that when achieving economical progress, domestic and international challenges had to be faced. US Ambassador in Sri Lanka says that if much attention is not focused on reconciliation and accountability, there may be another conflict. And North Korea issues a warning to foreigners in the south to evacuate. Minister Dilan Pereira affirms that Sri Lankans need not panic.
In media reports that a boat carrying 66 suspected Sri Lankan refugees arrived in Western Australia without being intercepted by Australia authorities. In a statement, Australian Home Affairs Minister Jason Clare has said that there were 66 suspected Sri Lankan Tamils refugees aboard the vessel. The vessel was inside Geraldton Harbour before the Coast Guard was alerted by two men. Geraldton is approximately 200 kilometres south of Christmas Island, where refugees' boats are usually intercepted. Local television said the vessel had been at sea for 6 weeks. In a statement, Home Affairs Minister Jason Clare said customs officials took the vessel ashore and set up a temporary screening centre. Chief Minister of West Australia Colin Barnett had said that it was stunning to see the boat arriving at Geraldton without being intercepted, unquote.
President Mahinda Rajapaksa says that numerous local and international challenges were faced when bringing economic progress to the country. He made this statement at the launch of the 63rd annual report of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in Colombo today.
It is clear to me that those who criticize this report are criticizing it because economic growth, which was maintained at 8% for 2 years, reduced to 6.4% last year. I do not think that they will speak of the period where we faced numerous major challenges locally and internationally to bring economic progress to the country. When economic sanctions were imposed on Iran, we said that it was not Iran but small countries like ours that would be hit by these. Because of this blow, we had to purchase crude oil at higher prices. We took steps to transform provinces affected by the war into provinces which support the economy. We are not prepared to think or speak positively of these things. When the Mattala International Airport was opened recently, I saw how some politicians said that 3 pilots would have to be deployed there. 1 person to drive away the birds, another to drive away the elephants, and 1 to fly the plane. I do not know whether this is anger or jealousy, but this is the truth.
This verse will have more on the unveiling of the Central Bank Report 2012 later on in the news, with views from the Governor of the Central Bank, Ajit Niwad Kabral, and the Secretary to the Treasury, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara.
Vishwa Saizan, the US Ambassador in Sri Lanka, says that although maintaining national security against the threat of terrorism is a challenge, an equally important challenge is to protect and maintain core principles of democracy and rule of law during difficult times. Saizan said that the United States has expressed disappointment with the stalled progress on reconciliation and accountability since the end of the conflict in 2012. Saizan made these remarks in a speech to the Foreign Correspondents Association in Sri Lanka on US policy towards and continuing engagement with Sri Lanka.
In her speech, Saizan said that the strong relationship between Sri Lanka and the United States is one that historically had been based on shared democratic values, and therefore the United States will always speak up when it feels that such values are threatened. She said that some of the most important steps in achieving real reconciliation have not yet moved ahead, adding that government dialogue with the Tamil National Alliance on power devolution is crucial.
As we examine next steps, we will renew our consideration of all mechanisms available, both in the Human Rights Council and beyond. We found a broad consensus in the international community that the international community should remain focused on the situation in Sri Lanka. Many countries shared concerns about the pace of reconciliation, about the pace of accountability. Some form of credible investigation is in the interest of the government concerned. Now, we have always been very clear about stating that there were serious allegations of human rights violations on both sides during that conflict. But when there are serious allegations of human rights violations, whether a government likes it or not, those allegations will persist until they are credibly addressed.
In your developing story tonight, North Korea warned foreigners in South Korea today to take evacuation measures in case of war in the latest escalation of warnings from Pyongyang.
We urge all foreign nationals at institutes and companies, including tourists, to take evacuation measures out of Seoul and South Korea for their own safety.
Soaring tensions on the peninsula have been fueled by North Korean anger over the imposition of UN sanctions after its last nuclear arms test in February, creating one of the worst crises since the end of the Korean War in 1953. Last week, Pyongyang advised embassies there to consider pulling out in case of war.
Meanwhile, South Korea's foreign ministry warned against North Korea's threat of war today, while South Korean workers continued to return home from the joint industrial park amid the escalating tensions.
For days, speculation has been rife that the North was about to launch some sort of provocative act this week, perhaps a missile launch or new nuclear test. The South's foreign ministry warned Pyongyang against firing missiles. If North Korea launched ballistic missiles again, that is a violation of the UN Security Council resolution, which will trigger discussions at the Security Council about the implementation of countermeasures based upon previous sanctions against them. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe pledged to take every possible precaution ahead of a possible North Korean attack, as Japan deployed Patriot missile interceptors across the country. I believe it is essential that we follow through with the recent United Nations sanctions. The Japanese government will take every possible precaution to protect the safety and lives of the Japanese people.
Meanwhile, South Korean Defense Ministry said today there were no signs of imminent provocations, but a North Korean missile launch was a possibility from around the 10th of April. When news first made inquiries from the Minister of Foreign Employment Promotion, Dilan Pereira, he said that the ministry is constantly monitoring the situation in the Korean peninsula through the Sri Lankan embassy in South Korea.
People are asking me what action we have taken, so I told them that we are in touch with our ambassador there, that's you, and then you have told us that the situation in South Korea is absolutely normal and there is no need for panic. The situation still remains the same, no? No need to panic, no? Right, okay. Right. And Sri Lankans, they are also not panicking, no? They are okay, no? Okay, right, okay, thank you. There is absolutely no problem to Sri Lankans or South Koreans living there. Everything is absolutely normal there. So there is no need to panic, and I am requesting all parents of our dear brothers and sisters who are working in South Korea not to worry about anything. If by some chance there is some incident that takes place, we have already put in place a contingency plan to take the people who in the affected cities to safer areas, and if requested or wanted, we are also set up a plan to evacuate them to Sri Lanka.